We are all wrapped up with NFL Week 4, and we have eyes on NFL Week 5. There are certainly a couple surprising outcomes from this previous week, some that we'll touch on as we dive into NFL Week 5. Running the pod today solo. We were without BJ. I will be gone for the next 2 weeks. I'm going on my honeymoon, so I also apologize for the lack of content that will be out there over the next few weeks, but certainly didn't want to miss NFL Week 5 right before I took off. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through some of the bigger games in detail, go through some actionable stats, walk through what the model has to say, and then we'll also run through the rest of the slate, see what the public is doing and how they perceive each game. And of course, we'll go from there, make our picks, predictions, and walk on from there. This show is brought to you by Not Beer, American Sparkling Water. It's never a bad time to have a Not Beer. Perfect summer, fall refreshment. You can have it outright as a sparkling water, or you can mix it with whatever you want. So make sure to find those links in the comments. You can find a store locator if you are in the Texas area, or you can just have it directly shipped to your door via Amazon. So make sure to check out those links below. Okay, Week 5. We have a concentrated slate of games that I think that we really want to kind of take a look at, that have some implications, whether they're divisional or just maybe how we can deduce more about a team and what they're going to be this 2024 season. So we got 4 in particular that we're going to talk about in detail, and then obviously we'll get to the rest of the slate pretty quick. But from the top, division rivalry, Ravens go to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Bengals got a good pick-me-up win against the Panthers this past week. Ravens demolished the Bills in primetime this Sunday night. Lamar Jackson in this offense looked ready to go. Really, Derrick Henry in this offense looked ready to go. I mean, Derrick Henry could not be stopped. And I think he'll certainly pose a problem for the Cincinnati Bengals defense. But let's get into it. So Ravens offense, I don't think we'll have any problem. They'll generate, whether it's in the running game and the passing game, especially against this Bengals defense. Right now, we're looking at a Bengals defense who is 27th in the league in EPA per play allowed, 29th in the league in defensive success rate allowed. And then one thing they do a little bit better is they are a little bit better in the pass. They're allowing they're 8th in the league in passing yards per attempt allowed, but that's because everybody can get to them in the running game. So I fully suspect that the Ravens offense will just kind of piggyback off their game last week against the Bills defense and just feed Derrick Henry, try to get into a positive game script and go from there. The line was at first I was surprised, but then, with the way, that these teams play each other, with the rivalry and just how much more this game means than other teams. I wasn't surprised by the line of Bengals home underdogs 2.5. I think that's fitting. And this Bengals offense is suspect to go off at any given moment. T. Higgins is back. He was peppered the football last week against the Panthers. Jamar Chase, you saw the explosive play that he made, albeit against the Panthers defense. It still looked like he couldn't be stopped. And they have, a lot of younger guys, all junior at the tight end spot, who's going to be a great prospect moving forward. You have Yoshiva, who's going to be a great power slot guy as well for the Bengals. So Chase Brown's also getting involved in the mix. He had some explosive runs in the running game. So I expect more of him and this Bengals offense to just kind of continue to get better. Historically, we've seen the Bengals always start slow. So I think they're going to pick it up a little bit, and they'll bring the fight to this Ravens offense. But the Ravens offense, let's talk about them. 3rd overall in the league in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. 1st in rushing yards per attempt. I really think that Derrick Henry's game last week kind of elevated them from 6th in rushing yards per attempt to 1st. So that's where we're seeing that number from. 6th overall in offensive success rate and 4th overall in passing yards per attempt. A lot of people kind of dog Lamar for his passing game. It's kind of an ongoing debate. A lot of people will argue that he is almost an elite passer, and then a lot of people argue he's just kind of mid. But the truth of the matter is he doesn't even have to be. He's extremely efficient with his arm just due to how well the Ravens scheme in the run game. Todd Monken, I think, is willing to do anything and everything to expose the other team's defense, no matter who they are. So I fully expect this Ravens offense to find success. Now, the Bengals will, have to force some 3 and outs. And I think they'll just have to generate their own offense, which they can do as well. The defense for the Ravens is somewhat beatable. We had high expectations for this defense coming into the year, thinking they were going to be one of the best in the leagues, and they're certainly great. I think they're certainly a top 10 unit. If we look at their defense, though, especially in the numbers, 19th overall in EPA per play allowed, 10th overall in success rate allowed. But they're first in defensive success against the rush. However, they're 23rd in defensive success against the pass. The Bengals can find success in the passing game, and I think they absolutely will. I think they're going to come into this game extremely aggressive and be ready to throw the ball to their playmakers on the perimeter. All they have to do is hold off this pass rush. So big game for Amarius Mims. If he can keep a clean pocket for Joe Burrow, then I absolutely think the Bengals have every chance to win this game. So model, let's talk about what the model says. The model sees this game as a near pick even. It favors the Ravens by half a point. So take that as you will. Bengals, I actually think, can keep this one close. I think the public perception about the Ravens coming off of the Bills game, albeit a lot of it's warranted. They are a contender. They are that team. A lot of people saw how they performed against the Raiders and immediately thought in their mind, like, oh, this team, they're not going to be what we thought they're going to be. I absolutely think they are going to be that team. But I think the Bengals are also going to be that team that we talked about in the offseason. Recency bias has kicked in for them. They've performed really poorly to start 2024, but I think they pick it up, especially in a rivalry game like this. I like the Bengals to cover. I like the Bengals to win outright at home against a divisional rival, against the Ravens. Okay, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Drop your favorite picks for week 5 in the comments as well. Give us why. Maybe you have some insider information. Maybe you follow a team a little bit closer than us. We love to see everybody's sneaky picks for NFL week 5. It's always a fun read for us. So moving on, we just talked about the Bills a little bit in their performance against the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. I don't think the score was indicative of what we really thought. Or of really how I thought that game was going to go. Now, credit due to the Ravens. They absolutely brung it. Todd Monken put on a clinic at the play calling position. And, of course, the Ravens defense really stepped up in containing Josh Allen. I think they had a really good game plan and just minimizing the explosive plays as much as possible. So, Bills, Texans. Texans also coming off of a tough win against the Jaguars team in which the Bills just absolutely shredded. So, but all of you know how the NFL can be. No matter what happens the previous week before, anything is fair game to happen in the following week. So Texans offense is struggling a little bit. This is kind of a bit of surprise to a lot of us because we anticipated this offense to really elevate themselves from last year. But they're kind of middle of the pack right now. They're 16th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 23rd in success rate. They're really not finding a lot of success in the passing or the rushing game. The rushing game is a huge detriment to this team right now. Joe Mixon has been out with an ankle injury. I do fully expect him to step back into this game against the Bills. Just really because I think that's going to be the focal point for the game plan for this Bills defense. They are worse off against the rush than they are against the pass. So I think the Texans are actually going to come in with an aggressive rushing game plan against this defense. Bills defense, we just talked about, they are 10th overall in EPA per play route, top 10 defense in that right, 15th overall in success rate allowed. They're 32nd in the league in rushing yards per attempt. Now, this data is skewed a bit because we just saw Derrick Henry run wild. Joe Mixon is not Derrick Henry. I don't have to tell you guys that. So, but I do think that Joe Mixon will be a huge boost for this offense in the running game, as in the sense that I think the Texans are going to scheme for a lot of different running plays to try and open up the passing game against this Bills defense, especially a Bills defense who aggressively blitz. So one thing that I'm looking at here too, to kind of bolster and reinforce that those stats that we were talking about, I mentioned that the Bills defense is 15th in success rate. They're better against the pass, 8th overall in passing success rate on the defensive side of the ball, but 15th overall in rushing success rate on the defensive side of the ball. So again, they're going to focus more on the defensive game, trying to open up, use the leverage of play action, and open up the back end for C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Steph Diggs, and Tank Dell, who looks like he's going to be healthy enough to play. Texans are actually a 1-point favorite. We're starting to see this line move a little bit. Now, if we pivot over to the Bills offense, and the Texans defense, I think this is really what stands out to me and why I think the Bills are actually going to win this game on the road. One, everybody's going to talk about how motivated the Bills are, and I think that absolutely applies, even though that shouldn't be the only argument that you make why a team is going to be winning a certain game. But they're going to be motivated coming off of an embarrassing loss like that. Bills' offense is still second overall in the league in EPA per play. Josh Allen leads all quarterbacks in EPA generated for their particular team. Jaden Daniels is actually coming in at a close second. Sixth overall in success rate on the offensive side of the ball, eighth overall in passing yards per attempt. I think they're going to come into this game really aggressive and try and shred this Texans defense. Texans defense are 13th overall in EPA per play allowed, 16th overall in success rate allowed. But if you look at it, while I do think that the Bills are going to open up the passing game and try to expose a couple holes in this defense, I think they're also going to be ready to run the ball. But I expect a huge Josh Allen game. And I think that the Bills defense may actually get to CJ Stroud. We'll see if CJ Stroud can take a step forward from how we started this year. One thing that kind of surprised me, CJ Stroud as a quarterback is actually averaging, it's very minimal, but he's actually averaging a negative EPA per play. So it's right around 0, but it is technically negative. So it's just something that we didn't anticipate from CJ Stroud, especially when they signed Steph Diggs in the offseason to add to their already elite wide receiver core. So I'm going to need to see more out of this Texans offense and this Texans defense, who a lot of people coined as a top 5 defense coming into the league. They have the talent. They just have to put it together, but I don't think they can do it against this Bills offense and or Bills defense. So the model likes the Bills by 3, especially on the road. I'm going to rock with that. Trust the model. Give me the Bills -3 against the Texans. I like it. Okay, Saints versus the Chiefs. This is one of the games I want to talk about because the Saints started off the season hotter than anybody. The Chiefs are a dependable 4-0. However, they've lost some key playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. They lost Pacheco a couple weeks ago for about 8 weeks due to an ankle injury. They just lost Rashee Rice in a really unfortunate play where Patrick Mahomes threw a pick where he was trying to make a tackle. He actually blew Rashee Rice's knee out. So a bit unfortunate there. So this Chiefs offense is depleted. I kind of expect them to start reaching out to guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, some of these older guys who are on teams that really aren't going to contend for anything this particular year, and trying to get some immediate help at the wide receiver position. So don't be surprised if you see something like that over the next coming weeks. But I digress. Chiefs 4-0 hosting the Saints, which the Saints, they lost to the Falcons last week in kind of in a last minute game against the Falcons. The issue that I have with the Saints is that I don't think they're leveraging the best parts of their offense that well. The hottest talking point at the start of this season was Clint Kubiak and how he has unlocked the Saints offense. And I thought I was on that train. I actually 100% agreed with that. But you go into games, or the past 2 weeks, he's gone into games against the Eagles and the Falcons, and he hasn't really leveraged the best parts about their offense well. He is really trying to overestablish the run against a Falcons defense who's pretty good, if not great, at stopping the run. Now, they do have some great secondary components as well. I think the Falcons defense is really underrated, but you have guys like Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. You can really operate in the middle of the field and create mismatches against some of the bigger secondary guys and the linebackers. That's what you got to do. You got to leverage that play action and get there. I do think that they'll bounce back and they'll regress a little bit because their play calling. I think they'll get their play calling right. They do have the talent. We've seen that now that Shaheed has elevated himself as a strong wide receiver too with breakaway speed. And then on the other side, you have Chris Olave, who's just a magician with the ball in his hands. I do expect that to come back to us a little bit. They are still second overall in the league in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 16th overall in offensive success rate. And their defense is playing really well as well. They're sixth overall in defensive success rate allowed. Saints defense is they're generating a great pass rush as well, something I didn't anticipate for the oldest defense in the league. Tyrann Mathieu playing lights out. So Chiefs, we talked about the offense and the losses that they've had. They're still fine. I mean, they're still fine. It's Andy Reid and company calling the plays. So they're 12th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball right now. I expect some of that to regress a little bit with the loss of Rashee Rice. We'll see if Xavier Worthy can take the next step as that guy. He hasn't really been able to earn targets, but I do expect him to do so. Chiefs are a 5.5-point favorite right now at home. This is kind of tough for me because it's like, at first you question the ability to generate any sort of offense, and their offense actually, comparatively speaking to the latter years, has been down. But this year, while it's been down, you now lose really all of your big time playmakers. Travis Kelce is also struggling. You can argue that defenses are highlighting him and they're, adding extra coverage for him. But, I think they were doing that already over the last couple of years. And Travis Kelce, last year or 2 years ago, was good enough to beat that extra coverage. This year, he may be a bit slowed down and a bit more weathered where he can't avoid that kind of stuff. So I'm concerned for this Chiefs offense in the sense that I don't know if they'll be able to be explosive like they kind of want to be. And we've seen them scale that down. They just kind of grind it out. They run the ball, and then they throw it in the middle of the field. They check it down. They throw these low to intermediate passes. They really don't stretch the field like they used to, although we did see a big bomb from Xavier Worthy last week. So hopefully we get more of that. They're going to need it, especially in a game like this where the Saints offense absolutely can find success. But Chiefs defense, crazy enough, like last year, has been what the Chiefs' strongest point on their team. They're 10th overall in EPA allowed for the Chiefs. Their defensive success on the defense side of the ball has been a bit lower, 20th in the league. But they get pressure on the passer extremely well. We'll really need to see what the Saints offensive line does. They've been hit or miss every single game this year. So one game is great, one game is awful. We'll see. But the model, let's talk about what Scarlett likes to say about this game. Chiefs 24, Saints 19. So it's kind of in alignment with what Vegas has to say. I still, as much as I want to take the Saints here, I do think the Saints keep it really close, but I think the Chiefs at home, albeit the missing talent on the offensive side of the ball, I think Spagnuolo calls a great game. It's really hard to go into Arrowhead in a prime time game and come out with a dub. So I think the last time we actually saw that happen was Lions opening week of last year. So give me the Chiefs in this game, but I like the Saints to cover that 5.5. So I think it's going to be a good one. Last one, going through in detail. Bucks go to the Falcons, and the Falcons are coming off of a really important win last week against the Saints. Puts them a game behind the Bucks in the NFC South. So this game has, we can go ahead and call it playoff implications. I know it's early in the season, but as the Falcons are a game behind the Bucks, if the Falcons can get this win here, then they're going to sit atop of the NFC South, barring anything crazy for the rest of the week. So, huge game for the Falcons. Falcons are 2-point favorites at home. We did see a great performance from the Bucks this week against the Eagles. So, confidence is high for really both teams. The common theme we've seen from the Falcons, though, is that every time they end a game, whether they win or they lose, we always see Kirk Cousins and some of the offensive personnel saying, we need to do better. We need to do more. Our standards are higher. So that's encouraging in a way, but you can tell that there's a bit of frustration with the lack of explosive plays, the lack of chemistry, and the lack of connection. And you kind of see that, a guy like Drake London, he had 12 targets. Wide receiver 1 had 12 targets, but they only connected 50% of the time, and he had 6 receptions for some 69 yards, I think. So my biggest concern for the Falcons is that will they ever get there? Will they ever get fully in sync, or is it just something that's, going to take a full year to develop that kind of chemistry? for the receivers in this offense and a first-time offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson. So there's a lot of growing pains for this Falcons offense. This Falcons defense is really what's kind of keeping them relevant right now. You look at the Falcons defense success rate; they're 16th overall in the league right now. Offensive success is really well. All things considered, from what we have seen, they're 14th overall in offensive success rate on the offensive side of the ball. First overall in EPA per play, though, so kind of behind the middle of the pack there. I do expect that to get higher and higher as Kirk gets more comfortable on that Achilles, but I still have lingering questions. Now, you flip it over to the Bucs. Baker Mayfield has this Bucs team operating really, really well and really, really efficient. They all seem comfortable. Kind of opposite of the Falcons, you see Baker and his guys like Godwin and Mike Evans just all on the same page. No matter what the play is, he knows where Mike Evans is going to be. He knows where Godwin's is going to be. And he's kind of commanding this offense in a way that really Kirk Cousins isn't doing so for the Falcons right now. 10th overall in offensive success rate for the Bucs here. But if you pivot over to the defense side of the ball, this is really where the Falcons can come in and leverage this game. Defensive success rate, 25th in the league, especially in the passing game. 29th overall defensive success rates, which is inherently just offensive success rate allowed in the league. You can absolutely pass against this Bucs defense. There's a lot of that is due to injuries in the secondary, so it might get better over time. But as of right now, I think the Falcons need to come in here with a game plan and get ready to throw the dang football and leverage off the play action a little bit. They're kind of struggling to get Bijan going in the running game. We saw Algier as a key component of this running game last week. He kind of took over in the latter half of that Saints game and looked really well. So it looks like they're back to that 1-2 punch, really running the ball more efficiently than they have in the first couple games of the year. So I expect to see a heavy dose of that from the Falcons. The model likes the Falcons by 3 here. I like the Falcons by 3. I like them at home, albeit they don't really have the same type of home field advantage as a team like the Chiefs, the Vikings, or the Seahawks. But playing at home still counts. It's a divisional rivalry. Give me the home divisional team here, one that is continuing to make progress on the offensive side of the ball, and the one with a much, much better defense in the numbers and via the eye test. So love the Birds at home. Okay, let's get into the rest of the slate here. We got a couple of games that we're just going to kind of blow off the chest here, talk about what the model has to say. First game, Packers. We saw Jordan Love. He dropped a game to the Vikings, although I think the Vikings are just easily cementing themselves as a top 10, maybe even a top 5 team in the league with the way that Sam Darnold is playing right now and KOC's calling plays. But Packers, they dropped a game to the Vikings. They're looking to travel to the Rams, who just lost the game against the Bears. Packers are 3.5-point road favorites against the Rams. The Rams are just depleted. Most of their offensive line is hurt. 2 of their top receivers are hurt. I mean, Stafford is getting beat up week in and week out in the pocket. And this Packers defense, of course, you guys know, is much better than what we're going to see, or is a better unit than what the Rams have seen in the past. This game is going to be one of those games where we look back and we're like, wow, what an odd game. It really is. So Jordan Love, I think, is still getting comfortable on that knee. He looked fine in the passing game. I just think that, he's still getting ramped up a little bit. And this defense is going to have to contain what they can in Kyren Williams. And I think they really can do that. I really do. If I look at the model here, there's about a 60% chance. The model gives a 61% chance that the Packers win outright. And then with a projected spread, of 23-19. So about 4 points for the Packers. So right on par with what Vegas has to say. I like the Packers to exploit this depleted offensive line. I think they'll also take advantage of a weak defense, especially secondary in the Rams, and I expect them to get back on track. It will be a battle of the wits between LaFleur and McVay. I'm excited to see that. So I think there will be more points than people anticipate. So you can honestly maybe take the over if you're into that kind of thing. But give me the Packers to win outright. Give me the Packers cover that spread. Okay, Jaguars, Colts. Colts travel to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. The Jaguars look so bad. Trevor Lawrence is officially in question as a franchise quarterback. I know he just signed that big deal. They're kind of stuck with him, but we can now definitively say that he may not be the answer to the quarterback position for the Jaguars. He missed a couple of big throws. One in particular I saw, he missed Christian Kirk about 40 yards down the field. It would have been a walk-in touchdown for Kirk if Trevor had hit him in stride. Flip it over to the Colts quarterback position, Anthony Richardson. He got hurt and he went out early. We're kind of seeing the difference between big and durable. You know, a lot of people kind of assume durable just because of how big Anthony Richardson is, but he's starting to show that he may not be as durable as everybody thought. In fact, quite the opposite. So I have concerns about Richardson. If he can't stay healthy while absorbing all of those hits, then I just don't think he'll be a viable quarterback in this league, because a guy like that, you draft him because you want to design those runs. You want to design those QB power runs, especially in short yardage situations in the red zone, because it just is another weapon to defend. But if you can do that, well, Anthony Richardson, as we have seen, his strong game right now is not the passing game. So I'm really curious to see how they scheme this game up for Richardson and what they do if they continue to lean on him in the running game. If we look at the Jags numbers, they're not good. 30th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 20th overall in offensive success rate, 29th in the passing success rate game for Trevor Lawrence. The only reason they're 20th is because their rushing game is 7th overall in the league in rushing success rate. So I expect a heavy dose of ETN and Bigsby, even though this Colts defense is kind of hard to run on. You know, you pivot over to them, they're 6th overall in defensive success rate in the rushing game. So I like the Colts to actually win outright. Now, as crazy as that sounds, just given what Vegas has to say and what the model says. If we look at Vegas, Colts are 2.5-point underdogs on the road. Model actually has them as 2.5-point underdogs on the road as well. But I like the Colts to win here. I really think that they're better coached right now. You know, a lot of stuff that Doug Peterson is doing has me questioning what their process flow is. I don't really have any confidence in his play calling, nor do I have any play confidence in Trevor Lawrence as well. Just looking at these numbers, I don't see a path right now where they get a whole lot better unless he really dumbs down and simplifies the game for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe then and there we see something, you know, a bit of life out of this offense. But I think the Colts are just better coached. They have better game plans, and we see them, you know, able to contend with anybody and everybody. So they just beat a really good Steelers team. And that was with Joe Flacco, quarterback. Now, Joe Flacco might be a better option right now, given the status of Anthony Richardson's passing game. But regardless, I know Steichen will come in with a game plan. Their defense is operating extremely well, 10th overall in defensive success rate. I do like them to stand strong in this game and defeat a Jaguars team who's really low right now. Patriots, Dolphins. Dolphins, I mean, they look ugly. So do the Patriots. Patriots have virtually no pass blocking. So I expect them to roll with Jacoby Brissett to save Drake May from the enduring pain of what it would be like to stand behind this unit. I do like the Dolphins to win outright. Dolphins are 2-point favorites in the model. And if we go and look at what they have here, they're 1-point underdogs at Gillette. So I actually do like the Dolphins to win outright here, albeit what we've seen from this offense, they're just completely unable to get anything going. They're actually almost dead last in the league in EPA per play. They're 24th overall in the league in offensive success rate. Their defense, though, can very well keep them in the game. 17th overall in defensive success rate, 5th overall in rushing success rate. So if the Patriots want to win, they're going to have to pass the ball. Now, I don't know if they can hold up this Dolphins defensive line long enough to generate any sort of passing game. So give me the Dolphins. I'll take them in a close one and an ugly one game that probably hits the under more likely than not. Cowboys, Steelers. Fun game. Cowboys, 2.5 to 1.5 point underdogs on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. The Steelers dropped their first game. This will be the Sunday Night Football game. Now, I know that the Steelers just lost this game, but I'm actually encouraged by their play. It looks like they were able to generate some offense and be more explosive when they need to be. You know, this team I thought was going to be fully dependent on controlling the pace of the game and really not generating any sort of explosive plays. They were just going to grind you out over and over and over. But I was encouraged by this. I think the Steelers actually should, a lot of people, a lot of crazy Cowboys fans are like, oh, why aren't the Cowboys favored? I think the Steelers absolutely should be favored by the 1.5 here. The model actually likes the Steelers to win by 3 here. This defense, man, I think they're going to eat against this Cowboys offensive line. This Dallas offense has become so one-dimensional that I think it'll be easy for the Steelers defense to kind of scheme up and game plan against guys like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. So this game will really hinge on the Cowboys' ability to develop a running game, and it's going to be really hard to do that against the Steelers defense, who is virtually, great at everything, covering everything on the defensive side of the ball. Defensive success rate for the Steelers, 5th overall in the league, 3rd overall for the rushing portion, 9th overall for the passing game, 5th overall in EPA margin, 17th offensive EPA per play, 1st overall for defensive EPA per play. Cowboys, you pivot. Historically, over the past couple of years, they've been a team that's always been top 5 in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, and they're sitting at 21st for the offense. Defense is no better. You can absolutely run wild all over this defense. They're sitting at 28th overall in EPA per play for the defensive side of the ball. They defend the pass really well. 2nd overall in defensive success rate. 30th overall in rushing success rate on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. So confirms my priors. You can run all over them. And I'd expect Najee Harris, Cordell Patterson, and then the added combination of Justin Fields' legs to just go crazy. So I think they will control the clock. I think they will control the pace of play. And I think the Steelers will win in a home game against the Cowboys team, who is not like the previous teams of the past. Give it to me. 49ers, Cardinals. Cardinals are coming off of a just morale decimating loss last week, 42-14 against the Commanders. 49ers, they did beat the Patriots up pretty good last week, so add it to the win column. They're sitting at 2-2. The Cardinals are at 1-3. The model likes 49ers by 6.5, almost 7 points. If we go look at what the spread is for this game, it's Cardinals +7 and the hook, so 7.5 for the Cardinals. I actually do think the Cardinals could bounce back and keep this one close. I think the 49ers will win, but we're talking in terms of like the spread and keeping this game close. I actually like the 49ers. You look at what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball, it's really, really good if you albeit last week. They're still 10th overall in EPA margin, 8th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 17th in defense, 12th overall in offensive success rate. Their defense is a just hole, though. 32nd overall in defensive success rate. I expect the 49ers to kind of get back on track with their offense. We've seen them less capable than what they're used to being over the past couple of years. They're missing a few playmakers, i.e. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, but they do have Debo back. They do have Ayuk back. Ayuk still looks off-kilter a little bit. He doesn't have that timing and connection and chemistry with Brock Purdy, but the 49ers are still operating really efficiently. 7th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball and 7th overall in offensive success rate. However, the defense is not what the 49ers defense usually is. 23rd overall in defensive success rate, 23rd overall in defensive EPA per play mark on the defensive side of the ball. So Cardinals will find success on offense. I absolutely believe that. I think this team is just getting, starting to get, and this is the first year of this playbook too. They're still removing a lot of the components of the Cliff Kingsbury offense of last year out. I think the Cardinals keep it close. I think they cover that 7 on the hook, but I think the 49ers win in a divisional home game outright. So moving on, Let's do a little bit of rapid fire. Panthers, Bears, Panthers +4 as they go to Chicago to play. Caleb Williams coming off of a good win. Let's check out what the model has to say about this game. The model, in fact, likes the Panthers to cover. 2-point spread. Bears winning by 2, Panthers keeping it close. So I actually do like that. I think that what we saw from the Bengals game last week, they were able to keep it close and competitive. If they remove 1 or 2 mistakes here and there, like an Andy Dalton pick, then they can absolutely exploit this Bears defense. And I think that, the offense that Andy Dalton is generating right now is enough to keep it close. So Browns go to red hot Commanders. Browns +3.5 +3 road dogs. This will be a true test to Jaden Daniels because the Browns, as we know it, have one of the top 3 defenses in the league. So we'll really see what Jaden Daniels is made of here. He is second overall in EPA per play generated at the quarterback position, right behind Josh Allen. So that speaks volume about the rookie. The model actually likes the Commanders to win outright by 2. I love that. I think this Browns offense is really incompetent. I'm ready for Jameis Winston. They're just almost like they're bottom 4 in the league in EPA on the offensive side of the ball, bottom 4 in success rate on the offensive side of the ball. While you look over to the Washington Commanders, they are first, second, third in most major statistical categories, especially the advanced metrics. Their defense is of concern, but you think about it as like, sure, Deshaun Watson and company may be able to find some sort of success against this Commanders defense, but will that sustain? Can they play quick enough to keep up with Jaden Daniels? Can their defense hold Jaden Daniels and company down enough to warrant them scoring more points? And I just don't think so. I think it'll be really, really close, but I still think that Jaden Daniels, the way that he's playing, is not a fluke. I think the Browns have to travel to Washington, and I think the Washington Commanders get a nice dub at home against a top 3 defense. Okay, a couple more. Broncos, Raiders. Raiders have to travel to Denver to play the Broncos. Broncos squeaked out a really, it's a good win for them. It was ugly. It was not a pretty win, but a win's a win in the NFL, and it was a good one against the Jets here. So divisional game against the Raiders. I do like them at home. Now, the model has this pretty close. It has it as a 1-point game in favor of the Denver Broncos. If we go compare with what we have with the Vegas spread, it's a 2.5-point spread for the Broncos. I don't think the model has it close enough, or has it. I think the model is a bit closer than what I personally think. I hate disagreeing with the model, but I do think the Broncos absolutely should be favored by 2.5, and I think the Broncos absolutely win at home. I think we're starting to see the development of Bo Nix. I think the Raiders' running game is broken. This defense is going to be able to contain Gardner Minshew's passing game. There's some drama going on with Devontae Adams. He may not even be available for this game. So if they lose their top receiver and they have absolutely no running game with Zamir White or Alexander Madison, this Broncos defense is going to tear them apart at home. Bo Nix, he doesn't even have to do a whole lot. He just needs to continue doing what he's doing, develop a little bit, make a little bit better progression in the passing game, and continue using his legs. Give me the Broncos 2.5 at home. Okay, Jets, Vikings. Give it to me. It's the overseas game, early game. Model has the Vikings winning by 2 here. It's going to be a closer game than I think people think. We're seeing a wide variety of spreads, but I just like the Vikings to continue their success all around. They're 4-0. They're 9th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 3rd overall in EPA per play allowed. Brian Flores is calling an amazing game. Jets still, I think, coming off of that loss last week, they'll be motivated, but I just don't think that they'll be able to play the pace the Vikings are going to want to play. So it's going to come down to the Jets defense. I don't think the Jets defense will be able to contain KOC and Sam Darnold as much as they would like. So give me the Vikings to win outright overseas. Okay, one last game. Giants, Seahawks. People are calling for Drew Lock here. I still think Daniel Jones, he's not playing great. Look, I'm not going to defend his play against the Cowboys, but he's not playing awful. There are certainly other quarterbacks that are playing awful. comparatively speaking, to how Daniel Jones is playing. Seahawks coming off of a fun game Monday night against the Lions on Monday night. So that was a good game for them. I think Geno Smith played really, really well. They just had some unfortunate happenings on the defense side of the ball where they couldn't really contain the Lions offense enough to where Geno Smith and company could kind of keep them in the game. So encouraged by Geno Smith. I'm really encouraged by this coaching staff for the Seahawks as well. I mean, you think about it, Mike McDonald was coaching college ball 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And now look at him. He is 3-1 in a really tough division, all things considered, coaching up a Seahawks team who, now is back to contention on the defensive side of the ball. The Seahawks defense, they used to be the Legion of Boom. Then they went through a really bad lull where they were not, they were really not good at any portion of the defense whatsoever. And if we look at them now, they're top 12 in EPA per play on the defensive side of the ball. So that's really encouraging for this defense. I think Mike McDonald's doing a great job. Great hire by Ryan Grubbs. He's getting everybody involved. We've seen a revival of DK Metcalf. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba is obviously back into the mix now, whereas he wasn't last year. Giants, their offense is Malik Neighbors and maybe Devin Singletary, and that's it. So going to Seattle to play in the Seahawks in the 12th man is going to be a really, really tough task unless we see a little bit more involvement on the offensive side of the ball. We need better decision-making from Daniel Jones, more involvement, more Malik Neighbors can absolutely ball. You can throw the ball to him 30% of the time and find a lot of success. But if teams can kind of isolate that in a vacuum and really just put their focus on that, then you're not going to be able to beat the elite teams. And so I think that while I think Malik Neighbors is a game breaker, 100%, you want to get the ball to him a ton. There has to be an added element. There needs to be another dimension of this Giants offense, and we just haven't seen it right now. I mean, if we look at where the Giants said they're 22nd overall in EPA per play, they're even lower than that on the defensive side of the ball. We need to elevate that. You can't beat a Seahawks team on the road with a really strong defense and a Seahawks offense that can absolutely score at any given moment. The Giants are going to face a tough test here. They need more out of somebody else other than Malik Neighbors. They just do. So I'm hoping that Brian Daboll can scheme up a really good game, but I like the Seahawks to cover here. The model is right around that 6.5 mark as well. Give me the Seahawks to win outright. Hey, that covers it for the NFL Week 5 slate. Guys, I will be missing for the next 2 weeks. I will be on vacation, so I apologize for that, but we appreciate you listening, and we will be back here in a couple of weeks to pick up where we left off.